I am very excited to have my next guest join us. It is a reunion, and she has her debut album out right now called Escaper, Sarah Kinsley. We should do a hug or something.
Yeah, we should. We didn't really do it. Okay. I realized.
This is quite the reunion.
I know. It's so full circle. It kind of blows my mind.
Right?
But
before any of all the wonderful things that have happened to you, it was just us, you and in your off-campus apartment.
Yeah, I know. It was, more than 3 years ago.
I want to say 21.
Yeah, it was definitely 21, and it was sort of right after the whole EP had just come out. It was just a bizarre time. Yeah.
You were like, hey, I don't have any classes or anything going on today, so
yeah.
you said hi to my dog and everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's just, I feel like a lot has changed over the last 3 years. So it's kind of just crazy to see you again and remember like hints of what we talked about or what it was like at the time, you know.
I am very flattered that you remembered my face, let alone some bits and bobs of what we spoke about. So
yeah, totally, totally.
One of the key elements of our conversation that I remember and that still sticks out to me was your apprehension of turning 20.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think it had just happened or you had spoken about it or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm 24 now, so that's kind of insane. Yeah, I feel like we were talking about that because the main theme of The King and what was really on my mind during our chat was just the entire idea of like what it could mean to make a song that embodies youth. And I feel like we were talking about that a lot, but it's funny now, like even when we played the songs live, I remember that feeling, but I'm so far removed from it that it's this weird like piece of time travel to like sing it and remember who I was.
I can imagine what it's like because 4 years, especially between 20 and 24, there's a lot of change in personal growth experiences, and let alone career-wise.
Yeah.
Because you think, okay, well, you graduate college at 21 and time to go out in the working world. But in the music industry, there's no such thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's your perspective looking back at that particular moment, snapshot in time, and reflecting on what you've achieved so far? What would 20-year-old Sarah say?
She would probably just not believe any of it. Like, it would just be such a joke almost to even think that that was possible. You know, like, it's almost funny to believe that. But, I feel like it was really strange to kind of have this moment musically happen for me while I was still in school because I was still in this position of, like, I remember the first show I ever played at the Mercury Lounge in New York was the same day as this final exam I had. And so I had to beg my professor to let me take the exam in the morning so I could rush down for sound check. And I just remember there being so much tension between these different parts of my life in so many ways. On one hand, this like classical Western music background and exams and tests, but also a community of musicians that I was surrounded by in college, and then just the rest of the world and what music could be and what that career could be. And I feel like when I was in college, music was just purely an escape. Like, it was a hobby for so much of my life and a thing that was like this really, really intense sort of pipe dream, this very like far away thing that I would never get to do. Like, I always just imagined I would go and work at a record label, or I would try to intern somewhere, you know, like that's the closest I could get to it. So now it just feels weird to be in the heart of it, like to be on a tour and to have an album out and just be grounded in something that I didn't think was possible, which is why, if you showed me this sort of like moment 4 years ago, I would have literally laughed at you, you know?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because I think when you're in college, you can only imagine, you can only manifest, you can only hope and dream and kind of set things on the table and write down goals, but to achieve them is a totally different ballgame. And the road to achieving those goals isn't always a straight line either.
No, yeah, it's not. It's really not. It's really not. And it's also, like, I think the pace of how things happened was super confusing and kind of, like, overwhelming in some ways, too. which also made that path feel way more windy and confusing. But yeah, I think I'm on the right one, hopefully.
Oh, 100% you are.
Yeah.
3 EPs, a debut album. I think you have a lot of momentum behind you. It's just amazing. I've been watching from afar, so to speak. You've come through San Francisco a few times. You've played some venues, and I've always had something else that took me away from out of town or whatever. So I couldn't catch up and I think, now is a great time to catch up with this debut album. And you talked about music being an escape, so you definitely held true to that thought process on this album.
That's true. That's true.
Alternate reality versus real life reality, I guess, if you want to call it that. Did you always envision an album in that sense?
I think it was a few weeks after we had like actually finished and we'd said that's it. Like we can't touch it anymore. No more changes, no more edits. That I was kind of sitting down and thinking about the track listing and the order of the songs and what they actually meant to me. And it was just very apparent that it was sort of this like odyssey through grief and through these portals and using other universes as the means to escape and to survive. And I think that for me, that concept has just always been natural to me. Like I am an escaper. That's like I feel like I have those sort of escapist tendencies. So that word felt really suited to the project initially. But the meaning changed so much because it wasn't just about, everyone runs away from reality when we can't handle it or when it's too much or when the truth of a situation or life is just, it's too overwhelming to even want to exist in. Like you have to dream, you have to run in order to survive. But the sort of circle of this album for me and like what made it feel right was that I realized that it was not just about running away, but also the process of like coming back to yourself and deciding to like be a human in society, in community again, and saying like, I'm going to choose that reality out of the ones that I have concocted is such a wonderful, beautiful, and like very painful choice to like accept the world with its flaws and like to accept the world without the people that you love in it, and that sort of choice is like why I wanted the album to be called Escaper and why the meaning of it is so centered sort of in that.
So many great songs. I think a lot of people really resonate with Nights. You probably are sick of talking about it.
I'm not. I don't think I've talked about it even that much. But
really?
Yeah, no, seriously.
Oh man, you talk about the sonics, the lyrical content. And I don't know, what is that instrument toward the end? The right? You talk about the brightness and joyfulness, but it's not a joyful subject.
No, it's really not. It's really not joyful. But it also is. It's deeply cathartic, I think, that song for me. And that that's like a synth flourish that you're thinking of. It's a tiny synth. It's like literally this big and it fits like on your lap. And the keys are really tiny and it's called a tape OP1 and it literally has like less than 20 keys on it and 4 little knobs. But it produces this really rich, incredible sound. And I had never played one before. I'd only seen them and
excuse my rudimentary description of what it sounds like.
It's not rudimentary. It like that's good enough.
Is it looped?
No, it's not. It's played live. It's just like it's like me playing like arpeggiated stuff and also
oh my god,
turning like a knob. It's not that crazy, but it's only like a few notes. But
so modest.
No, it is though. Like, it's not. It's
you can give me a tutorial after this.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I actually think the more impressive thing was me like getting a tone out of a glass bowl. That took me forever. It took me hours just to play like 2 notes in Starling.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was really cool. And I had never played those before either. But yeah, Nights was really cathartic to make also because the production process was really challenging. Like it was probably the hardest song to finish on the whole album because of its really strange and wonky structure. But we had so much fun with it, and Stella Mozgova from Ward Paint played drums on it, and just she came in and we kind of just asked her to like fill this canvas with whatever she wanted, and it was incredible, and it was very technical but also very emotional playing, and yeah, it was cooler than I could have imagined or like tried to control or perfect, you know?
When we look at the full body of work, what is the most challenging song on there? The song that you're most proud of?
Whoa, okay. Wow. I mean, I think challenging production-wise was definitely Nights. Challenging to write, Beautiful Things was a really difficult song to finish just because of who I was talking about and what I was thinking of. And I think the album is primarily about grief and about loss. And it's just something that I had experienced before in life, but never so intensely. So it was a lot to try to figure out because I also feel this sort of strange self-awareness and this perception of like, is this ridiculous to even try to be writing about this as a, you know, like selling records about something so intimate and having to promote a record about, you know, I just was so in my head about that. And it made the writing of it, every time I would try to sit down and like get this emotion out, I felt like I was lying to myself, or I felt like I wasn't being truthful even if I was, and it was just a lot of layers to unpack there. So that was pretty difficult.
Why do you think that you felt so guilty creating art as a way to express yourself, to relieve yourself of that pain, and not thinking on the other side of the coin of that person who knows you, obviously, to say, Sarah, no, you do this, you know, let it out?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think part of it is that I feel the guilt in terms of the sort of resentment that I feel sometimes if I see art that I feel like is improperly making use of something as serious as death or as tragic as that. And I feel like sometimes, at least with social media or the way that music becomes compressed in many, literally and figuratively, like within the internet, there's not enough space to hold the complexity of what I think grief is. So I always felt like, you know, am I shrinking this emotion into something that's just able to be fed onto a streaming platform, or am I diminishing the greatness of this person into something that only benefits me? And I have that sort of intrusive thought whenever I make music now, especially if I'm talking about specific people that I've lost, because it's just the last thing that I want to do with my music. And I want it to address complexity, and I want it to highlight things that make me feel like a good and a bad person. You know, I don't want something to be one-sided. I like being ambiguous, and I don't know. I think I'm not sure where that comes from, though, and I don't know where the origin of that is, but I sometimes even feel like lyrics, words, language is not enough to capture an emotion that is just so beyond what I can say. You know?
I get it. I've lost people in my life, and you can never stop emoting about them, speaking about how you feel about them, the experiences and all those things. But as an artist, of course, I know it's a totally different ballgame because, like you say, you're sharing that with other people, and I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole and make us both cry right now. So
no, it's okay. I really enjoy talking about it because it is like an undeniable thing on this album, and I don't want to forget about that, you know. I like it being present because it's also very beautiful. Like, I feel like there are songs in this album that are just about grief as a concept, like the grief of your past self or the grief of relationships or friendships that no longer exist. That's also part of our lives, and grief as an emotion is just so inherent with us from the day we're born. So I like talking about it. So.
Yeah. It's also in a way an honor for that person too, to honor their being, their presence, their life, whatever the situation is too. So I'm sure that the people would be proud and pleased.
I don't know,
so
but we'll see. We'll see.
One final thing, you have a bunch of videos where you're running on a beach. Quite a few of them, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
What is the inspiration? Are you just trolling us?
No, look, I like to be free. I feel liberated when I am running barefoot in nature. Like I just have to do it. It feels really fantastic. You're the only person that's like called me out on that ever.
I just thought it was a little interesting, that's all.
I know. I really enjoy doing it. Nights is definitely like the second or third time that I've done it, but
who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? But I just love it. I think that I hope that my art and music like make sense with nature. So when I'm in it, I feel the most like true to what I'm talking about.
In a way.
But thank you for that.
In a way, it's a little revealing to the other side of Sarah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Where you're just playful and being a goofball and just like, hey, I'm on the beach, I'm barefoot.
Yeah,
come and catch me.
Yeah, I get to let loose for once. But yeah, we filmed the most recent one like really early, around like 4 or 5 a.m. at Rockaway Beach in New York, and it was just incredible. It was really nice.
Amazing. You deserve all of the attention, and I'm so happy that we got to connect in person. It's been a while, but let's not wait too long next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
It is Sarah Kinsley right here on B-Sides.